So how bad is this monkey? Let's talk about Bad Monkey episode 2. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk to you about Bad Monkey Season 1, Episode 2. $100 says you won't. It's coming to Apple TV Plus on August 14, 2024. It released the same day as Bad Monkey Episode 1. If you watched my review of that, I liked it. I thought it was a little slow, but I thought it laid enough groundwork to have a fun, interesting series. Episode 2, I think does better. I think probably because we know the characters, it's more fun, it's more interesting. My hot take is I think you should watch it. It's a good follow-up to episode 1. I thought it was funnier. It makes more connections between the characters and it also clears up a little bit of the mystery, but leaves plenty more for the rest of the season. So I definitely think you should check it out. It's on Apple TV Plus now. So I'm going to tell you a little about the episode, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the recap and ending section. If you don't know what happens in this episode, and you might not, there are some big surprises. I would turn it off when I get to that point. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler-free. I'll let you know when I get to the spoilers. So in Bad Monkey episode 2, you have the follow. Remember the big reveal at the end of episode 1 was that the person who killed Finney, who was the kid that pulled up the arm from the fishing boat that started Yancy's whole rabbit hole into this investigation, the person that shot him outside the restaurant was the developer in the Bahamas who is harassing Neville, trying to get him to sell his shack and tear it down. So that was the big reveal there. Now we get a little bit more follow-up. We get to find out, how that person is connected to everyone here, and also what happens to Neville and Yancy after that. So, things I liked about this episode. The first, I'm going to still call it the bright colors and the style. I love the style of this. I like a bright, kind of fun look. It is, like I said, this is set in the Florida Keys and Miami, so you get really bright colors, really beautiful scenery. The beach, the weather. It's a wonderful backdrop for a kind of crime thriller. I love that. I love the contrast. It's not the same as like Midsommar, but I love that movie too because you have those like horrible atrocities in this like bright, beautiful world. This is similar. You've got crime, you've got seedy underbelly, but you have these bright, beautiful colors around it. The second thing I loved, I still love the characters. And this episode, I think, lets some of the characters open up, specifically Rosa. Rosa was a little bit cold in the last episode. Now we get to see a little more of her personality. We get to see a little bit of what she does off duty, and it's fun. It's fun to see her open up and become more fleshed out. The third thing I love the connection. Some of the characters are starting to meet. Some of the things that the stories at first seemed diametrically opposed, two different stories. Now they're starting to connect, and that's fun to see. I'm excited to see where they intertwine further down the line. And the last thing I liked, I thought it was funny. I like the humor. I like the humor in this one. And I don't know. I don't know if it is funnier than the first episode or if I just appreciate it more because of how I felt about the first episode. But this one I thought was a little bit funnier. I thought that some of the jokes really hit. There were a couple that made me like actually laugh out loud. So I enjoy the humor. It's not as prevalent as I was hoping it would be, but it is still fun. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much about this episode. There's really only one. I'll call it the neighbor stuff. The feud that Yancy has with his neighbor, the developer. I'm sure it'll pay dividends later, but it's just, I don't find it that funny and it's just not that interesting. So I guess it kind of relates to the overall theme of developers trying to like destroy old beach property and bring up brand new expensive places, but I just don't find it that interesting. It kind of seems to just waste time, but it's fine. I'm sure it'll connect later on. Maybe the kid is Christopher's son or something. I don't know. We'll find out later. So all that being said, Bad Monkey episode 2 comes to Apple TV Plus on August 14th, 2024. Like I said, definitely check it out. The series is fun. I've enjoyed both episodes, this one more than the last. So if you haven't seen this, check it out on Apple TV Plus. Catch up now because we are just getting started and I'm sure there'll be way more twists and turns along the way. Now I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't want to know what happens in this episode, I would turn it off now because there'll be spoilers. So this episode starts with some good news. Yancy gets a call from his lawyer and it turns out the charges against him were dropped after a closed door meeting. So he's excited. He's going to get his old job back. But as he's going to get his old job back, he sees a black GMC Yukon kind of like outside of his house and then speeds away when he gets close. So it seems like something sinister is going on. Now, meanwhile, in the Bahamas, Eve, our newly widowed Eve, is in the Bahamas with her boyfriend, Christopher. The developer of the Bahamas resort and also the person that shot Finney is Eve's boyfriend. The plot thickens. She's also not really acting like someone who is grieving. She's walking on the beach. She's taking pictures. She's going shopping. She doesn't seem to be sad at all, which I think we all knew was true, but it seems like she was probably involved in her husband's death. She also mentions to Christopher that Neville's shack is still there and that, it needs to go. And Christopher sends one of his henchmen, this person named Egg, to go deal with it. Now, back in the States, Yancy goes to meet with Sonny to try to get his job back. And when he gets there, he finds out he can't get it back immediately because Sonny had to make an agreement with the doctor that Yancy wouldn't get his job back immediately. So he's not reinstated yet. He has to spend some time in the trenches, I guess, before he can come back and be a detective. So they give him a job of like, restaurant code enforcement. It's not a great job, but he's happy to be back on the force. He's happy to be working. He's happy to like know that he could get his job back eventually. The only thing is he has to keep his nose clean. He hasn't been able to do that yet. We'll see if he can do it now. I'm gonna guess he probably can't. So back in the Bahamas, Neville comes back from fishing and Egg has destroyed his shack. They just destroy his shack, put his stuff out. So now Neville doesn't have a house. The thing he's been fighting for a while is all gone. So back in the States, again, Yancy is now going about his business being a food inspector, and he runs into Bonnie, who tells him that she has to leave abruptly. It seems very sketchy. She's like putting her stuff in storage and bouncing. And while she's telling this, while they're driving, Yancy sees that GMC Yukon following him again. And so he tells her to stop. He gets out and he starts walking to make sure that Bonnie won't be in trouble, which is nice. It's very nice. He calls his partner to ask about it. And while he's talking, the Yukon jumps the sidewalk and tries to run him down. Yancy avoids this by jumping through a window in a store, breaking the window, not dying, but almost dying. This confirms his suspicions the Yukon is bad. I was surprised by this. I would think that would be the end of your day. You jump through a window. I feel like there would be an investigation there. Maybe you want to call it in, do something. I don't know why Yancy doesn't do this. I guess he was talking to his partner, but feels like he probably should have done something more. He doesn't. He goes on to do his job and he gets to the restaurant and inspects it. After Neville's place was destroyed, he's now angry with the Dragon Queen because he paid her. He wanted a ritual and Christopher is still alive and his shack is destroyed. He goes and kind of wants to yell at her, and she says basically like, you didn't pay for a rush service. You paid for it to happen eventually. Nothing I can do unless you want to give me something. And she essentially solicits him. She seems to be very interested in Neville. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what the greater connection is. I'm sure we'll find out later. Maybe she's just horny, but I think there's probably something else that she wants from him. Maybe it is sex, but I feel like that would probably be some sort of like boost to her power. Who knows? So Rosa, our corner friend in Miami, she goes to meet her sister and she's wearing a top from one of her corpses. There was a scene earlier where she was like, essentially saying like she sees so much death that she doesn't really get phased, and she's talking to one of the corpses, and it's just like essentially, her report is like the victim is dead, but at least she looked cute when she was dying because she had this cute top on. Well, Rosa goes to meet her sister with that top on. I don't know how she's able to get it off. I feel like that would be difficult to get off of a corpse. Like once rigor sets in, I feel like it'd be tough to get a shirt off, but she does it. She said that she washed it before, but there is a funny scene because she goes to meet her sister. One of her sister's friends are there, and the sister's friend comments on her top, and she's like, "Where'd you get it?" And she's like, "Oh, I got it at work." And she's like, "Oh, where do you work?" And her sister just like cuts it off and says, "Hey, well, let's go get some shots." So a funny little quip there, but Rosa can't stop thinking about the case, can't stop thinking about that arm that was in the water, and especially the tan line from the watch. So while she's at the bar, she's just looking at people's watches, trying to figure out who it is. And eventually she finds someone who seems to have that watch. It's a very fancy watch. I've never heard of it. It looks really nice. And apparently the retail price is $220,000. So she gets really excited that she found it out. She like found a picture of it, traced it out, matched the tan line. So it looks like that might be the watch. And it looks like it could be a little clue that they could then investigate. So she excitedly calls Yancy, but he gets mad at her. He says that he can't help her because he can't get involved in this case at all because he's trying to keep his nose clean. He doesn't want to lose his job again. And also he gets mad at her for tattling. So he hangs up. Now, Yancy is doing his job. He's investigating a restaurant and it's really disgusting. He shuts them down. But while he's leaving, he sees Finney's girlfriend eating there. I think her name is Madeline. And as soon as she sees him, she bolts. So before, when she met him initially, she didn't know anything about it. She seemed, fine. She seemed happy. She didn't get scared of anything. Now she bolts. So either she is scared because Finney was shot right after meeting him, or she knows something else or is remembering something else and she bolts. So Yancy calls his partner, mentions it. His partner says, "Don't get involved. Don't get involved." But his partner does mention they checked in on black GMC Yukons and there's a ton of them in the area. So not really a way to narrow it down. So Yancy goes to meet with Eve's daughter, Caitlin, and she thinks that Eve killed her father, specifically for a $5 million life insurance policy. She also mentioned that Eve's in the Bahamas with her new boyfriend, Christopher, the developer. Now, Yancy doesn't know who this is, but I'm sure he'll find out later. Now, Caitlin wants to break into their house while her stepmother is away and find evidence. Yancy says no, he can't get involved. And so Caitlin has to take matters into her own hands. And so she texts Eve basically saying, I know you killed him, and I'm going to tell the insurance company, which means that $5 million insurance policy is not going to go to Eve. Initially, there's going to have to be an investigation and all of that stuff. Eve gets this text in the Bahamas and basically bounces back to Key West as soon as she can. And when she gets there, she goes to see Caitlin, and she doesn't yell. She actually plays it very smart. She meets her at church, and then they go back to Caitlin's place and they talk. And Eve is very nice. She's very accommodating, and she basically drops the hint that Caitlin is also included in the life insurance policy, that her dad made her a beneficiary of the life insurance policy, trying, I think, to get her to not file that claim. I mean, if she's going to get some portion of $5 million, that could be a motivating factor, but it seems like a scam. It seems like she's just dropping this to get her to drop the information. I mean, anything that she says wouldn't necessarily matter if she's not actually a beneficiary. So she can say this to Caitlin, but if she's not a beneficiary, there's nothing binding there. The money would still go to Eve. Who knows? Maybe Caitlin is a beneficiary. I mean, even if she is, they'll still get a good amount of money. So I don't know. But I think Eve is trying to scam her to get her to not tell insurance. Once the payout happens and Eve has the money, it'll look different if Caitlin raises it then, because she didn't say anything now. She didn't say anything before. And all of a sudden the money's there. And then she raises the question. It's going to make her look greedy. It's going to make her look like, she's trying to get some payout. So I think that's what's happening, but we'll find out. Now, Rosa goes to Eve's house to confront her about the watch, try to get some information. But once she's there, Yancey's already there. Remember, Yancey said he didn't want to get involved, but his bad judgment got the best of him, and now he is here. Now he's here and exploring the house. So they explore together, and we also find out a few things about Rosa. A, she didn't tattle on Yancey. Yancey's boss, Sonny, called and said that they were close friends, and that's why Rosa told him about the investigation. That's how Sonny found out Rosa didn't tattle on him. And also we find out that Rosa doesn't have a boyfriend. She told Yancy when they first met that she did have a boyfriend, that he was a sniper. We find out that Rosa actually doesn't have a boyfriend. Maybe this will be a love interest. Maybe it'll be a healthy relationship for Yancy. I guess we'll find out. They explore the house looking for any clues, but they eventually get trapped in the shower. And while they're in there, they accidentally turn on the shower and see blood in the drain. So they pop up in the drain and they find blood. It looks like a little bit of hair and also some bone fragments. So now that Neville's house is destroyed, he goes to the Keys to see his sister, and he brings Driggs with him. Driggs the monkey, which I don't think he probably could do. I don't think you could just take a monkey on a flight. I feel like there would at least have to be some paperwork, probably to get a special ticket. Maybe he does. Maybe he's got the paperwork. I don't know, but I feel like you can't just bring a monkey on a flight. Maybe he took a boat, but it said that he flew. Anyways, he goes to the Keys to see his sister, and when he gets there, she says, I'm glad you decided to take the money. It feels like maybe she hasn't sold. The conversation's weird. It feels like she hasn't actually sold it yet, so maybe the developer was strong-arming him without having any sort of agreement. But she says she's happy he's going to take the money, and she's going to go get it for him eventually. But first, he's going to stick around there. He's going to work at her restaurant and help out. So after Rosa and Yancy find these bone fragments, they talk a little more about the case, and it seems like Rose is going to test the fragments, but she doesn't want to take any more time off of work. She's just going to do it while she's at work. Yancy tries to convince her to keep investigating, but she's coy about it. And he says, I'll see you tomorrow, while he investigates the murder more. After this interaction, Yancy goes home, and there's an Oklahoma investigator there who's looking for Bonnie. Well, Bonnie has a different name according to this Oklahoma investigator. Apparently, she is wanted in Oklahoma for sleeping with one of her students. So she was wanted. I think she jumped bail 9 years ago and disappeared until recently when the investigator saw her in a viral YouTube video. So that triggered this investigator to come. She's asking where she might have gone. Yancy kind of ignores it. He's like, I don't know where she is. And the investigator plays it cool. She's like, I'm going to assume that that's a yes, but you're just processing this information. So whenever you process it, just give me a call. She's not forceful. She's not mean. I think she's understanding. And so she's going to wait for Yancy's call eventually. Now, after this, they see a baby deer caught in, the developer's netting, which, again, I don't really love these scenes, but this one actually ended up being kind of funny because Yancy takes the baby deer to a vet, and it's late at night. He goes up to the vet, and the vet's like, okay, it's after hours. You're going to pay the emergency fee? And Yancy's like, no, it's not a pet. This is just wildlife. He's like, and the vet's like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything. And then Yancy's like, hey, do you have kids? Because I'll just leave this deer here, and your kids, you can listen to it scream until it dies. So then the vet takes it. The vet's going to help this deer out, and it's not Yancy's problem anymore. So back in the Bahamas, the Dragon Queen and Yaya are talking about Neville's request. And they find out And we find out that Yaya might not believe in her powers, although it's a little coy. When she was young, one of her boyfriends broke her heart, and then he eventually died. And the Dragon Queen's like, that was just a coincidence. But Yaya says, but you wished it, right? So it seems like Yaya believes in her powers. Not sure if the Dragon Queen does, but in any event, she does read some shells and kind of says something about how, this whole thing isn't between just Neville and Christopher. There's all sorts of bad people that are involved, and we see Eve come into view. And then they do a ritual. They cast a spell. It seems like they're casting the spell that Neville wanted. Maybe she hadn't cast it yet, but they do cast some sort of elaborate spell. Now, going back to Yancy, it's the next day, and he's going to a restaurant, and he ends up going to Neville's sister's restaurant, and Neville is there. So now Yancy and Neville meet. Now they finally meet. They don't know who they are. They just kind of like interact briefly. Yancy orders coffee from him. And while he's ordering, Rosa comes and joins him. So Rosa, who said, no, I'm not going to help, is now helping. Yancy orders 2 coffees, and it looks like they're going to keep working together. So what do we think this means? What do we think is going to happen? Well, I think Yancey's partner is involved. He keeps pushing back on Yancy. I mean, it could be him just trying to be nice, saying don't get involved, but it feels like he is pushing Yancy away from this specific murder investigation. I feel like he's going to be involved. I feel like that's going to be a big reveal later on. Now, how do Neville and Yancy get involved? I'm going to guess Neville gets taken out somehow. I'm not sure how, but I'm going to guess he gets taken out or he gets kidnapped and Yancy finds the monkey. And Yancy then has to investigate that as well because Yancy does seem to love animals. He likes the deer. He takes that baby deer to the vet. So I feel like that monkey is going to be somehow involved with him. And Yancy's going to either take care of the monkey or have to find the monkey's rightful owner, Neville. Now, the bone fragments in the shower make it seem like Eve's husband was killed there, probably dismembered in the shower. The bone fragments are probably from like cutting it up and then dumped in deep water. So and that could explain why there were shallow water shark teeth there, although I'm not sure how they would have gotten there. Maybe they cut it up, dumped it in the shallow water, and it drifted out to sea. Maybe that could have happened. Like they dumped it there, some of the shallow water sharks nibbled at it, and then it drifted out to deep water, or they cut him up there and then dropped him. I'm not sure how the shallow water shark teeth would have gotten there, but that's another option. I guess we'll see what happens next. But it seems like Yancy and Rosa are probably going to keep investigating. Yancy's not going to keep his nose clean, and eventually it's going to come to a head. And that is episode 2 of Bad Monkey. Like I said, I think you should watch it. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was more enjoyable than the first episode. So definitely check it out. And if you do, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.